And that's why there's, special preference for you who are in locals. So, but yeah, I'm going to get onto the mainstream. Oh, and here we are. And give it a second for all of it to populate while I'm starting to set stuff up. We'll allow everybody to come in. And we're going to start the best Sunday of your weekend, or at least of this weekend, by far. I can just feel it. I can just feel it that everything's going to be a great day, and there's lots of good news around the corner, lots of positivity, all that sort of stuff. Good morning, Claudette. I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you, Claudette. And everybody else that's starting slow to come in. I'm just waiting for... There's like a lag of the stream here that, I don't know, what's it? Half a minute, 30 seconds, something to that effect. So when you start and you put your comment, whatever, it takes a little bit for me to see it. Good afternoon, Freedom family. Good morning, Cheryl. Will, what's up, brother? Good morning, coffee in hand. Well, I hope so, brother. Me too. I want to welcome all of you to the Freedom Coffee live stream. This is the place where we get together, we all come around, we celebrate all the freedoms that we have, the freedoms that we regained, and we look to expand on different ideas on how to expand those freedoms in the future. And how do we do that? Well, the first step is step one: get yourself a cup of coffee like Will here and myself. And step number two is we have to make sure that we are not stuck or trapped in a state of anxiety. We need to be able to think clearly. We need to be positive. We need to evaluate, step back, and reevaluate some of our preconceived ideas and preconceived notions, make sure we're not subjected to cognitive dissonance and narrative poisoning and all that sort of stuff. And then, once we've done that, take a sip of coffee and expand our freedoms together. So, that's what we're going to do today, and it's going to be amazing. Good morning, Bridget. I guess you made it back. Ryan, what's up? Ryan's already got a beer. Good for you, brother. Well, I mean, it's Sunday, right? Claudette says, heard a big trucking company shut down. Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit. We talked about that before. Yellow trucking. But that seems to be a combination of... That company was mismanaged for many, many, many years, since 2009. I think the 2008 crisis, the GFC, really put them in difficult waters, and they had a massive pension plan and unions and all that sort of stuff. And I think, one of the macro theories is that we're still in the GFC from 2008. It hasn't ended, that we're in a little bit of an expansion, about to go into a major crash. I don't know. Who knows? We'll talk about ideas about that moving forward on how to sustain yourself in an economic crash like that, credit crunch, all that sort of stuff. Beth, sticky notes. Coffee, no chocolate. Yeah, coffee. Beth here likes hot chocolate, not coffee. I get you, Beth. I get you. I need flavored coffee myself, usually. So first thing, like, share, and subscribe. If you can, please share the platform with other people who are like-minded and care about truth and freedom and respect for one another and loving each other and all the values of the Freedom Convoy that's covered in this book. The trucker convoy that gave us hope, where we focused on peace, love, unity, and freedom and hope and all the good stories that are in there. We're going to continue that here, and we're going to let all the negativity and smears from political convoy, they can just, hang out over there and everybody yell at each other and start tearing each other apart. And we're going to focus on all the good things and how to continue moving forward. And our arms are always open to people who realize there's some truth and they were fed quite a bit of lies. And, I've spoken to a bunch of people this week specifically on that topic. And, every few days I have some people that will send me a little message and I guess they'll feel guilty and they apologize, which I really appreciate, about, all the things that they had believed or sometimes said. And it's not their fault. I said, look, the political convoy apparatus, the political structure, has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars engaged in propagandizing you and trying to brainwash people through narrative poisoning. Whatever. What are you going to do, right? That's why I just sat back and figured, okay, let them spend as much money as they want, which is going to start again, by the way. And we'll just hang out over here and focus on positivity and love. Before I start on this topic, actually it's tangentially related. The National Telegraph, which is the nationaltelegraph.com, where one of the places that I would normally be streaming here, their Facebook page has been shut down, I guess for a wrongthink. No, it's been shut down because the Canadian government has been quite overzealous in trying to propagandize its citizens and lie to you through lies of omission, meaning they do not allow any sort of perspective other than themselves. The state official truth or the state official fabrications are the only thing that should be disseminated, which is why we have Bill C-18, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So go to nationaltelegraph.com. They also have a Twitter account, which is Nat Telegraph. I guess National Telegraph couldn't fit. And you can follow them there. And I'm from what I understand, because I've gotten to know them pretty well, there's going to be some new infrastructure set up to deal with all this stuff. And I think this is kind of good because this is going to push people away from the Facebook echo chamber to a point. And I don't think that's necessarily a negative in my perspective. It was always really frustrating that people would be getting banned from Facebook and be frustrated and then go back to Facebook. That's why I initially deleted Facebook several years ago, and that's why I wasn't using Facebook during the Freedom Convoy, because I knew, or I suspected, if we had set up a Freedom Convoy, there was a very good chance that it would be censored and deleted. So, anyways, we'll talk more about that in the future as well. Question, and this is going to kind of lead into where I'm going. Was Germany in the 1930s, you know what I'm talking about? Was it a free speech society? Is that what you think? Does that make sense? Was Germany in the 1930s a free society that valued free speech? This is important. So I want you to take that question and idea. Was Germany in the 1930s, the National Socialist Workers' Party, was that a free speech society? So take that and park it over there. Jesse, in my heart, you're never late. And good morning to you. And good morning to Rocky. And who's the other bird who knows how to say, do you want some coffee? I need to get we need to get all the birds lined up and watching. All right, so we have that idea. We're going to park it over there. Was Germany in the 1930s, the National Socialist Workers' Party, was that a free speech society? Question mark. Park that over there. I want to get into Bill C-18 and the CTV fake news. My friend Punchy McGregor, the documentarian who did the fake documentary on the Freedom Convoy, which we had covered on this stream. Maybe I should repost that. You know, I'm going to repost that after this for people who want to watch it. We did that as a night stream where I had a little bit of wine and watched you through over a couple hours through that complete pile of horse manure. It was quite fun and entertaining for those of you who were there. But anyways, CTV fake news, Punchy McGregor's former news agency that they fired him from. So we can add that to the list of people around the Freedom Convoy that lost their jobs. So there was Diane Deans lost her position on the police thing. A couple of people were fired in the local sit in the Ottawa city. Aaron O'Toole lost his job. There's a bunch of them. I should make a list of all the people that lost their jobs for just lying and smearing about us, but there's a bunch of them. It was really great. So CTV, Punchy McGregor's fake news outlet that was banned from the Freedom Convoy press conferences, they posted a headline on this issue of Facebook, CTV, whatever, and the headline read, so good. It was so good. Canadians concerned about Meta's quest to block news in Canada. Concerned about Meta's quest, meaning Facebook, to block the Meta's quest to block news in Canada. Is that what happened? I'd like to ask, Punchy McGregor's former staff, is that what happened? Is Meta just, Facebook went out on its own and decided, we want to censor news in Canada? So my take was, and I responded to that, was that I posted on Twitter, the fake news deceptively reframes Twitter's C-18 censorship bill as, quote, Meta's quest to block block news in Canada. Meta's quest to block news in Canada. That's how they reframed it. So it's not Trudeau. It's not C-18 legislation. It's not the Liberal Party trying to censor you. No. Mark Zuckerberg on his own doesn't want to make money with clicks from news agencies or boosts from us. No, he's not interested in money. What he's interested is in helping the Canadian government censor news. That's what CTV actually believes, or is trying to tell their audience. Why these news agencies lie to their audience and then wonder why they don't have credibility, I don't understand. But think about that. CTV is trying to convince their audience that a tech billionaire in a foreign country is single-handedly and singularly focused on trying to block news in that foreign country. Is that how the world works? I don't think so. So, anyways, then I checked a couple of days later, and CTV, fake news, naughty. You know what they did? They revised the headline. They revised the headline to, quote, this is their headline. This is their professional fake news headline. Quote, no joke. Satirical websites caught up in Meta's quest to block news in Canada. Well, that's very different, isn't it? That's very... And then the article covers this guy from the Beaverton, which is that, satirical, liberal, wannabe Onion website, and they're getting blocked like crazy. But completely backfired, Cheryl. You're right. So we've gone from fake news. We've gone from Canadians concerned by Meta's quest to block news in Canada. Fast forward a few days, no joke, satirical website caught up in Meta's quest to block fake news. You understand why I call them fake news and why I ban them from our press conferences? Like, the way things work online is 90% of your hits or your view count comes when you release the story. It's the same as when they do retractions and they retract them. Like CBC had to retract a bunch of articles about the Freedom Convoy, which were completely fabricated, but they retract them a couple of weeks later, a couple of months later, and then they don't tell anybody. They just quietly put it up on their news website, just like CTV does. And that's why, I'll tell this story at one point, but that's why I was sending emails to them when I was sending the invites for press conferences. I was responding to the legacy media telling them, I'm sorry, we don't recognize you as a legitimate news source. You're not invited to participate. And they went crazy. I got so angry. But anyways, so there was a quote from the Beaverton guy. It says, I would equate Facebook as a drug dealer where the first taste is free and they make you keep coming back for more. Isn't that what CTV does? Isn't that what the Beaverton does? How are they different? They're all the same. It's so funny watching the left start chopping off each other's heads and going after each other. Not that that doesn't happen on the right too. It does as well. But it's really funny. It's that flaw in the philosophical thinking of some people, especially people on the extremes, right? And it goes back to this flaw that we're seeing amongst liberals as they get co-opted by progressives, if you will, because, look, there are liberals who I would disagree with on many, many issues, but they understand free speech and they're willing to engage with people, right? Sometimes it takes them a little while, but they will. But everyone loves censorship when it's the other guys, right? When it's somebody else, then they love censorship, that's what's made people like myself free speech absolutists. That's why in the 70s, the ACLU, which was much of their board were Jewish, not all of them, but they protected the rights for neo-Nazis to protest it was in New York State, right? People are completely opposite ideological, and to the point that, you would perceive them as being violent, or at least have violent tendencies, but they still protected their right to free speech. And you know why? Because sunlight is the best disinfectant. That's also how we're finding out about all these feds around the Freedom Convoy, right? It's the sunlight that does it. But what's really frustrating on the topic of free speech, and you see this very much in Canada and amongst liberal people, liberal political people, not individuals, right? But in terms of liberal strategy, there are people, and this goes back to my initial question, right? From the free speech absolutist frame, sunlight is the best disinfectant. But there are people who don't believe that. They don't. They think censorship is the best way to protect it. And what's interesting is many of those people alive today, they actually believe it or not, they actually believe the German government of the 1930s expanded its genocide and takeover of Europe because of free speech. I had somebody tell me exactly that, somebody very, very high up in a particular organization. Didn't word it exactly like that, but he was inferring that. Oh, I know what free speech leads to. What, free speech leads to Hitler? That's what you're trying to say? That's not how the world works. And the National Socialist Workers' Party, to have this ideological and educational framework, to think that during the 1930s, the reason people like that got into power was because free speech and open rhetoric. It's crazy. Like that's when we're going to talk about this filter later on, because I'm going to talk about filters around Convoy. The really filter. Like, you ever want to persuade people who's saying something that's completely asinine? Just throw the word really in front of it. And it goes like this. This is how you do it, okay? Really? Really? You think the Nazi party was a free speech party? Really? Really? That's what you think? Really? Really? You mean you think they gained all this totalitarian control over Germany and a large swath of Europe because they were free speech libertarians? Really? 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 Do you think that Anne Frank was living in a free speech society? Really? Really? Anne Frank was living in a free speech society. Oh, I get it. Like, no, it was controlled speech. That's where you get book burning from. That's what book burning is. It's controlled speech. But there are actually people alive today, functioning human beings, who went to school and have educated backgrounds and run organizations in Canada who believe that the National Socialist Workers' Party were free speech people. They won't use that word directly, but they'll infer that it was free speech that allowed them to gain control over Europe and run their homicidal genocide. It's really interesting. It's just fascinating. And, you parallel that to the behavior of the Trudeau government, and not just the Trudeau government, but the political class in general. Because remember, even True North was forced to cover when C11, which is related to this. C11 or was I don't remember what it was. I kind of half watched them. But they were commenting that even everybody in Parliament was clapping the passage of the bill, I think in the first reading, and the Conservatives were as well. So let's not do the blue right, the blue red party, and it's the political class versus everybody else, and our job is to force them to focus on the freedoms of individuals and individualism. And you don't work for the lobbyists, you work for the people who vote for you. But unfortunately, right now, things are a little bit lopsided, and that's how it works. The winners of that conflict became the banners of history today. Sorry. Yeah, well. Well, we can go into that a little bit more in the future. But anyways, all right. Tangentially related to all of this, to free speech, censorship, manipulation, propaganda, brainwashing people, one of the ways that they do that, the political class really does a lot of this, is they put people in different echo chambers and silos. That's one of the big benefits of when you censor people. Then they need to go find an outlet, especially the people who are more activist in nature. So they'll go to new platforms, and then they'll build an echo chamber, and it'll just become a negative feedback loop, and it'll get more and more extreme over time. So if people are noticing the rise of an extremism, it's because of the left Trudeau political class censorship that forces some of the maniacs into an echo chamber, and then those echo chambers grow. They often get run by or infiltrated by feds who want to perpetuate that sort of extremism nonsense, so they can create a boogeyman and say, look at all the white supremacy, right? But it's all artificially constructed. It's all fake. It's all fake, like our news, right? So this is tangentially related to an idea I've brought up here a couple of times, and we've discussed it, Jesse and Cheryl and Bridget, and we discussed it a little bit in the Discord, and that is, it takes 1 to 5 years to find out the truth about any political event. Does that make sense? Does that make sense now? I've put it out. We've talked about it a little bit for the past couple of weeks. And some of you may be new to this idea, but it's entirely accurate. It's part of the reason I've taken the strategy that I've had. You know, somebody said to me, why didn't you just start, and somebody who apologized to me about, attacking me and all that sort of stuff. And this person said to me, why didn't you just tell me everything that was going on in the very beginning, and how I was being manipulated, how I was being lied to? And I said, I couldn't, because you and many people were suffering cognitive dissonance because of narrative poisoning. You wouldn't have listened to me. And I knew it would have to take time for you to start to see other things happening around, to start getting you to question what's really going on. And people will start to question when they hear the same lie repeated over and over and over and over again. Something starts to trigger in, not all people, but a lot of people. They start to think, wait, why do I keep hearing this over and over again? Well, when you keep hearing a narrative over and over again, then it starts to become clear, I think, to your subconscious that there's something wrong. There's something not right. And that's a big part of why it takes 1 to 5 years for the truth about a political story to come out. Because first, the people who are trapped in the echo chamber need to engage in the negative feedback loop. They need to support one another and grow. And then what happens? Eventually, they start fighting with each other. And certain people get cast out of the echo chamber. Once you're cast out, then you realize, hey, the people that you were supporting and were supporting you just turned on you. Then it gets you to start thinking, right? And it gets you to start doubting other stuff that went on. And that takes a couple of years. That's the stage we're just gonna start entering now. And you can see them doubling down with a lot of the propaganda and, fake organizations we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's where we're at right now. People who have been suffering narrative poisoning for a very long time, people like myself and others who know the truth, have just been sitting back and waiting for people to be ready to start to listen and open up their ideas and realize, okay, something's wrong. I'm willing to listen. Tell me, right? But if I had done that right in the beginning, nobody would have listened, because they literally invested, I thought it was just hundreds of thousands of dollars. It now looks like a couple of $1 million into propagandizing, brainwashing, and building narrative poisoning across Canada for the past year and a half. That's where a lot of the money they got. BJ, you have woke us up more than anybody. At least that's how I feel. Well, thank you, Sherry. I would argue that no, you've woken yourself up. You got to the point where, you wanted to realize that there's something wrong, and you wanted to explore new ideas. So that's not me. I'm just the one here to help and try to give everybody accurate context around all these issues, right? But I think you also congratulate yourself for that too. Must head out. Happy caffeinations. Right on. Edge. Thanks, brother. Okay. So, in that spirit, these are the things, in the spirit of it takes 1 to 5 years for the truth about any political event to come to the surface and to be realized and accepted by people is the other thing. Because of that, and because of the millions of dollars that they invested in narrative poisoning, but we're well on this path of people understanding what actually went on, I want to outline, I'm trying to figure out a good way to craft this. So right now, and this may change, I have the 10 things you're going to learn about the Freedom Convoy, the 10, I guess, lies around the Freedom Convoy or narratives or whatever. I'm going to figure out how to retool this in a way that it makes sense to people, especially people who are new to the concept of, oh, yeah, clearly I've been pumped and dumped for as much money as possible, and they were just treating myself and other pro-freedom people as an ATM for the political class, right? And maybe the political media class, too. So these are the 10 things that we're going to learn over the next, over the 1 to 5 years after Freedom Convoy, okay? And some of this you'll know will sound familiar, some of it won't. So, number 1, the Confederate flag hoax, right? Many of you know that, but many people on the other side of the political aisle, they don't know. So this is for everybody, right? This is just not for people who are on board the entire time. So number 1, the Confederate flag hoax. Number 2, the Nazi flag hoax, right? That's the other one. And I'm going to explain the mechanism, why they kind of overstepped in a little bit in the next section I want to get to, all right? Number 3, the third thing you're going to learn over the next 1 to 5 years about Freedom Convoy. The liberals and the conservatives conspired to end the Freedom Convoy. And I think a lot of you understand that. Some of you, that idea might be new, and that will definitely be new to people on the liberal side, for sure. But anyways. Number 4, money from political donors was used to create proxy organizations to further this mandate. So all these little organizations that you see, freedom this, freedom that, whatever, blah, blah, that is all funded with big political money. I disagree, Ben. The political side knows. They just don't want to admit their hypocrisy. The people who were engaged in it, yeah, for sure. The people who were doing it, they would know. But I'm talking about the people who supported, the people who are the onlookers. They're the ones. They're like, much like people are suffering narrative poisoning on, let's say, the political right, the people on the political left are suffering narrative poisoning as well. Like, both sides did that. That's why they reacted with such vitriol during my testimony, because I didn't support either of these sides, because both narratives were a lie, both of them. The liberal narrative, it was, chaos and pandemonium in Ottawa. Well, that didn't happen. And the conservative side, which was, it was peaceful and it got out of hand. Well, that didn't happen either. It was peaceful until February 5th, when they put massive amounts of pressure trying to sabotage us to end, not to end it, but, that's part of it, to co-opt it and to end it, to ensure we didn't get money, a whole bunch of other things I'm going to talk about later. But those are the two narratives, right? So both people who support either side are suffering narrative poisoning, right? I'm No DJ Productions. Good morning. It's good to see you as well. Okay, so number 4, money from political donors, and we're talking like big-time political donors, was used to create proxy organizations to further the goals of number 3, which was the liberals and conservatives conspired to end the Freedom Convoy. Okay, the 6th thing you're going to learn over the 1 to 5 years after the Freedom Convoy. Number 6. So number 5. I skipped one. Number 5. So number 4 is money from political donors was used to create proxy organizations to further the goals. Number 5, you're going to learn the PPC and the conservatives conspired to take over the Freedom Convoy on the ground level. That's why you saw the big PPC tent there and them doing a barbecue, and I was on stage, and Derek Sloan and Maxime Bernier together were trying to push their way on the stage because they were the grass level, political bullies, them and the other guy. that what's that old guy, that idiot, the guy who smells like you ever be near this guy? Guy smells like a fucking ashtray. Randy Hillier. God, it's so gross. Though that group of people, funded by the way by conservative political operatives, they were there to take over on the ground level. So you'll learn that over time as well. Number 6, the sixth thing you're going to learn about the Freedom Convoy in the 1 to 5 years after the convoy itself, that some alternative media outlets worked to help the political apparatus to co-opt and end the Freedom Convoy while claiming to support it. So we saw a lot of that. That's very evident, and I've given some examples in the future. But these are all topics I'll talk about over time during the stream. So some alternative media outlets worked to help end the convoy while claiming to support it. All right. Number 7, which you're going to learn the 1 to 5 years after the Freedom Convoy, is Fed McKenzie and Diagolon was a Fed operation. And we talked about this before. I'm not referring Fed like they literally worked for the federal government, although Jeremy McKenzie has a pension from the federal government and worked for the federal government. So, okay, fine. But that whole Diagolon thing, that was just a way to capture all what the political class calls the crazies, so they wouldn't have to deal with their grievances in the next election. And so it's not run by the federal government, but it's run by the political class. The political operatives will divvy out money and give money for boosting, say, we got to get rid of Trudeau, and we don't want to do some of this stuff, but if not, the country's over, so you got to help us, and we'll give you $500 or $1,000 for boosting, and here and there, and just, whatever. Those are the stakeholders of Political Convoy, as War Campaign explained when they were pulled into that meeting. Again, we've talked about it in the past, but we'll expand upon that in the future. Political donations like insurance companies and every other fraudulent entity, that's a small, how to describe it? That's for business interest, but there's people who are sick with politics. They're sick like a heroin addict. Like, that's all they have in their lives. And that's most of the people in your political parties, by the way. They're just really sick people. They don't have any other hobbies. They don't have any other interests. Like myself, I post some of them. We've taught some of them. Some of us talk about cars and motorcycles and music and whatever. No, they have nothing. They're just really sick people. And the only thing they have in their lives is politics. That's who runs the whole thing. Okay, so number 7, Fed McKenzie and Diagolon was a Fed operation funded by political operatives, and that's become obvious to a lot of you as well. Number 8, Hurt Locker Tom, Creepy Wilson, JCCF, Political Convoy, that whole group were there to help ensure truckers didn't receive a dime. That was one of their big goals. They cannot receive a dime. Couldn't get any of that money. They were there to ensure. And I'll give evidence I'll give you one thing, for example. When the class action suit was launched, I didn't know this until the day before my testimony, when Jim found it. The day before my testimony, we stumbled across this in the Mariva injunction. That's what was locking down all the money and putting into escrow. And Creepy Wilson lied to me about that too. But what we weren't told is the plaintiffs and the judge put in the Mariva injunction that we, myself, Tamara, Chad Eros, Bridget, everybody who was named in the class action suit, we had 24 hours to apply to the court to have money released, a percentage of the money released just to cover legal costs surrounding the Freedom Convoy. All of us had that right. And if we had that, we each could have taken a little bit of money. Some of the truckers who were charged as well could have taken a little bit of money for each of them, not have to go to you in the community and raise money. They could have gone directly to the plaintiffs and applied to have that money, a percentage of the money, divvied up to all the defendants so they would be able to afford counsel and representation. Keith Wilson never told us. Think about that. We all could have utilized a percentage of the donations for the purpose of defending ourselves in the class action, and Keith Wilson never told us. I learned that the day before the POEC. And you know why he never told us that? It's all about controlling the messaging, right? When he didn't tell us that, the 24 hours goes by, now we're beholden to the JCCF, who was his client. And now everything has to go to the JCCF. All of your donations have to go to the JCCF because they have then made themselves by default the only entity to collect, the only entity that had the means and would collect, and then would therefore from there collect donations. Didn't tell us that we could have just very simply applied to the court, to Paul Champ, and even the other side was like beside themselves saying, why aren't they just applying to get access to some of the money for the defense? Even they were confused. All right. So that's number 8. Number 9, international money was used to help co-opt the Freedom Convoy. So money from outside Canada got involved through different conduits, through different people, different organizations, different proxy organizations, different lawyers. Money was sent to them, and it was used to help co-opt and end the Freedom Convoy. And not just the United States. That's a really interesting one. Jesse says because Wilson's hands is there for self. Yeah, I mean, remember, Wilson he's just a foot soldier. He's taking orders from people. So when Wilson does that, he's not doing it on his own accord. He's working for people telling him to do that. So my frustrations with him, as frustrating as he is, it's more with the people he works for, right? They're the ones who had him doing that. So anyways, number 9, international money was used to help co-opt the Freedom Convoy. And number 10 on the list of things we're all going to learn the 1 to 5 years after the Freedom Convoy is that most feds are political operatives. They're paid by proxies tied to political parties, very wealthy donors, very influential people in politics, people you know, names that you know. All of these, quote, feds, the people who look like lunatics, you think, how the hell are these lunatics on the legacy media? It's because they're paid. They're paid or otherwise incentivized. It's not always with money. Sometimes it's just a favor, a boost of a profile. We'll get you on stage with the premier, things like that. You know, but there's going to be a lot of that will come out. So Confederate flag hoax, Nazi flag hoax. So number 2. Number 3, the Liberals and Conservatives conspired to end the Freedom Convoy. Number 4, money from political donors was used to create political proxy organizations to brainwash you, by the way. That's the narrative poisoning thing. Number 5, the PPC and Conservatives conspired to take over on the ground, or at least attempted to. Number 6, some alternative media worked to help end the convoy and for this mandate while claiming to support it. Fed McKenzie and Diagolon was a Fed operation, political supporters. Number 8, Hurt Locker Tom, Creepy Wilson, JCCF, political convoy group were there to help ensure no truckers received any of the donation money. And number 9, international money was used to help co-opt the Freedom Convoy. And number 10, most feds are political operatives. Questions? Go. If you have any comments in there or anybody's brains are exploding or whatever, now's the time because now I can read your comments. Good, nice to catch you as well, Jesse. You are speaking of citizens, not the politicians. Got you. Yeah, exactly. I'm just talking about them. Political donations, like okay, we covered that already. Group of them together, and more resolution, like like unions. Yeah, it kind of operates like that a little bit. It's the kind of the collectivist nature of it. They operate very much in the same way. I think you should deal with the money first. The something money first. There's a heart here that covers your comment, Jesse. But anyways, Claudette says Jason Kenney. Yeah. Why was the Freedom Convoy a lawyer on stage with Jason Kenney? 2 or 3 months after the Freedom Convoy for a job well done. Like, I don't know if you conceptualize that. A premier of a province doesn't get on stage with anyone or near anyone who's not 100% on their team and on their side. Interesting. More to come. All right, next, I want to talk about filters. And there's a whole long list of these sorts of filters I'm going to get into in a minute. Beth says 10 things. Sounds good. Substack article would be enlightening. Yes, I have like 6 different Substack articles right now that are in rough draft that I got to finish off, that I got to start releasing. And I'm trying to time some things up. There's a lot of things that are going to be going on for the next 6 months. Well, no, next 3 months. And then the following, there's going to be a break in another 6 months. There's a lot of big things that are lined up. All these 10 things we talked about in some way over the past 18 months. Yes, and what we're learning is more and more detail on all these things, which the reason you need details because in order to articulate it to people so they can understand it, it's difficult enough to accept something when you're suffering from narrative poisoning. That's why it's very important to get as much detail as possible and tell people, look, here are all the details. You don't want to believe it? Great, but you might want to ask yourself some questions, right? Many streamers streamed it live. You can go back and watch it. The Convoy or the POEC, which are you talking about? Anyways, okay. Types of filters. This is really good. These are some good exercises. They're the person. There's a what's it called, a podcaster and creator by the name of Scott Adams. He's really good at articulating a lot of the stuff in this space of influence, persuasion, marketing even, but in really concise ways so that people understand it. So a lot of these ideas aren't necessarily his, but the way of packaging it is really efficient, and I know it helps. So I try to pick the things that are relevant to us to communicate with you guys, and this is one of them. You'll have to write another book on the 10 points. Yeah, Claudette, I know. First, there's some plans for this book as well on the next over the next year. But for those of you who haven't read it, honkingforfreedom.com, the trucker convoy that gave us hope, and it's all the positive stories. And I love the endorsement on the back. The trucker convoy protest in Ottawa attracted tremendous national and international attention and was simultaneously demonized by then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his cronies in the legacy media, the minions at the CBC first and foremost among them. What really happened? Benjamin J. Dichter, integrally involved from the beginning, lets his readers in on the story. That's you. One that all Canadians should know, Jordan B. Peterson. So, let his readers in on the story. If you want to join our group of readers that understand the story, go to honkingforfreedom.com and check it out. I promise it's going to make you smile, and it might even make you cry, as everybody's telling me in a couple of parts. All right, so types of filters. One is one we discussed already, and we're going to come back to it. But this one I really like, and it's so true. It's so true. This is how you can detect. These are the things you should think about when you're reading fake news or you're trying to discern when legacy media is lying to you. And he describes it as too on the nose. If it's too perfect, then you know it's fake. You know there's a problem. You know there's a narrative, or there's some sort of lie by omission. So, an example of too on the nose. You got truckers coming from Alberta, and these big commercial trucks. Many of them are those very imposing Kenworths or Peterbilts, but there's a whole range of trucks like mine and whatever. But these truckers are coming. They tried to say from Western Canada, because Alberta is the province that everybody's supposed to be afraid of, right? Crazy. But truckers from all over descended upon it, but they tried to label it as Albertan truckers, come to descend on Ottawa. And they were very clear to try to infer that they're people from rural communities. Not always true. I'm from downtown Toronto. Many people live in cities, but the narrative was rural truckers from Western Canada are descending on Ottawa to whatever they said it was. They never said once what it was, which was to end mandates and end ArriveCAN, but they'll make up a fabricated grievance, and that's it. So what happened? This is the two on the nose. You know what the two on the nose is? The Confederate flag. The Confederate flag that showed up at Freedom Convoy. That's two on the nose. You got a bunch of truckers from rural Canada coming to Ottawa to protest. The Confederacy is a foreign country. That's the United States. I mean, kids on Reddit might not be able to understand that, but truckers know that. Rural Canadians know that they tried to smear the Canadian truckers with an American pejorative, right? The Confederate flag showed up. And to show how too on the nose they were and how desperate they were and how too far they went, it went so far that it wasn't just a Confederate flag, if you look carefully. It was a Confederate flag with a truck on it. It was so funny. I laughed when I saw it. I'm like, oh my God, nobody's going to believe that. Come on. All right, the Confederate flag is a stretch in itself. But I don't remember, as far as I know, of American history, the Confederacy didn't have a Kenworth W900 on it. But their Confederate flag did. That's an example of two on the nose. It's just too... It's just it's so perfect for a fake narrative that makes everything work perfectly. And life is messy. Life doesn't work that way. The next example of two on the nose. You know the media and the government were lying to you because it was two on the nose. Again, rural Canadian truckers from, quote, Alberta, as they liked to label us, descended on Ottawa and opened a Nazi flag. Two on the nose. No, that's two on the nose. No, I mean, aside from the fact that, I'm Jewish, Tamara, as I mentioned, was Métis in one of our press conferences. I don't think the Sikhs who came down, I don't think they were white supremacists. There were a lot of people of all sorts of visual minorities. I hate doing this identity politics, racial communist shit, but that's what they do on the left. And they just wouldn't open their eyes, or maybe they're just so brainwashed that they're blind to see that it was Canadians of all stripes that were there. But two on the nose was the fake Nazi flag. That's two on the nose. That's how you know it's a lie. And all of you felt it, right? Everybody who was watching, who understood what was going on, knew the people involved. When they saw the fake Nazi flag come out, they knew that's two on the nose. that's not. And that's when people just start, yelling Fed, Fed, Fed. That's why, because they know. Okay, so that's the two on the nose filter. There's another a filter that we discussed before, which was the really filter, right? And it's so good. It's so good. I love the really filter. So another example of the really filter is, what's the narrative? That one, and this is no disrespect to, no disrespect for that person, but one person who is a mother and I guess grandmother with political ties and who's worked in politics as an activist for decades. Okay, fine. One person who's not a trucker, all by herself, rallied thousands of trucks to drive across the country to Ottawa. Really? 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 Is that how the world works? Really? One person who's not a trucker just got thousands of people to hop in their trucks and drive across the country? Really? Really? Is that what happened? Or perhaps there were 11 truckers who already had been working and discussing a convoy for a couple of months, and then some political people decided to get involved. Which one do you think is true? The one person who's not a trucker, all of a sudden, just everybody just decided, oh yeah, this is the eureka moment. Everybody get in their trucks and drive. Really? 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 That's what you think? Okay. It was, I'll tell you what might be, that could have, so that's one side. The other part is the largest fundraiser in Canadian political history, if you can call it, well, I don't want to call it political history, but the political people saw that because they saw us as an opposition. 600,000 people in a Facebook page that were dissenting voices amongst the conservative movement, so the party didn't control. You don't think they're going to try to take control of the protest and the Facebook page and the money? Really? So I'm a political party. I'm one of the big political parties. I see trucks across the entire country driving to Ottawa. They have over 500,000 people that have signed up. They have fundraised $23 million, half roughly of what Trudeau raised over 4 years. They raised it in 3 weeks. I'm going to sit back and just watch it happen. Really? I'm not going to get involved and try to take over and try to get my MPs involved and set some foot soldiers in and try to block the money and call everybody I can and try to stop it. Really. I as the conservative establishment, I'm not going to try and intervene and co-opt this movement and take control over the Facebook page with 600,000 people, take control over the money and make it our movement. Really? I'm just going to sit back and watch and let it happen. Really? That's what you think? Really? You like the filters, right? It just shows how ludicrous these assertions are. I'm going to give you another example of the really filter. I mean, when people start to bring up some of these assertions and are suffering the narrative poisoning. Yes, Cheryl. Really. Yeah. I'm the Conservative Party. There's 500,000 people coming in trucks, all conservatives, but I don't have control over them, and they're raising $23 million, and I can't raise a pot to piss in. Oh, no, I'm not going to take control of it. Really? You're not going to send people from the OLO to reach out to all your big donors and all the people or activists around the ground saying, get involved and take over as quickly as possible? Really? That's not crazy. All right. The other one, and I mentioned this on stage the first weekend, because every Sunday, myself, it was supposed to be myself, Tamara, and Chris would go on stage after Pastor Hildebrand and just thank everybody for being there. I thought it was important. It was cold. People had sacrificed their time and their lives to come out. The least we could do is, I think it's necessary that we go out and thank everybody, even though that we're in the midst of chaos 24/7, and it was difficult to manage, even think, but we had to at least go out and be with people and thank them, right? That was, and I kept doing that after I broke my ankle. It would take me an hour to get to the stage in the snow. I'd show up, like, where's Tamara? Where's Chris? Then the second week, I remember, where's Tamara? I'm like, oh, she's not coming. I'm like, not coming? I just spent an hour and a bit trying to crutch in the snow to get on stage to thank everybody. Where is she? And that's when the time when Chris showed up. That was February 6th. Chris showed up late, and I'm like, where were you? He was like, oh, I had to move my truck. And I just remember, you had to move your truck. Why'd you have to move no, you didn't have to move your truck. Why? Oh, I was blocking some old lady. That was a lie. I could tell right away. He's not a very good liar. I'm like, why'd you move your truck? What do you know that I don't know? Anyways, whatever. All right, so the last thing we're going to use a really filter on is the, one of the last things. One of the last few things, because we only got 8 minutes left. The War Memorial. Remember the War Memorial? Oh, the War Memorial was something bad happened at the War Memorial. They kept changing what it is. That's also a good sign, a good filter. If the reason keeps changing, then you know it's a lie. There's some sort of untruth going on, right? But yeah, there's some truckers did something to the War Memorial. Really. The truckers did something bad to the War Memorial. Really, CBC. Is that what happened? Really? Very important context for this. Did you know many truckers are military vets? Did you know that? Did you know many truckers come from military families? And often families from first responders. So you have former military or people who come from military families in Ottawa protesting freedom, and they just decide to do something bad to the war memorial. Really, that's what you think. You think some veterans went and did something bad to the war memorial. Really? Okay, really, that's what you think. Yeah, veterans would desecrate the war memorial. Really, that's what the fake news and the government, Mr. Blackface, was trying to sell you. Remember, what are the 3 least credible people in society? Does everybody remember? I'm sure you know. Somebody put in the comments the 3 least credible people in society. Claudette says, why are Tamara Chris still doing what they're doing? Is the Conservative Party still managing them? Yes, no, and sort of. We'll get into the details on that in the near future. Yeah, Megan, flowers are violence. Yeah, exactly. Somebody put it in there. You got it right. Lawyers, politicians, and the media. Those are the 3, exactly, Jesse. Those are the 3 least credible people in society. Who are all the people talking? Right? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a politician. And I'm not media. I'm a trucker. But everybody's believing their fake narrative. That's why people they may not accept it, but subconsciously they know there's something wrong. All right, last one. Really, that moron of a member of parliament who is now, what is she? The mental health. She's now the mental health member of parliament. I've never witnessed somebody so stupid in political office in Canadian history. She went in the parliament and she said, the honk, that's code for Heil Hitler. Really? That's what honk means, right? We're all neo-Nazis? Really? I'm Jewish. I haven't seen Hurt Synagogue, right? Yara sucks. Really? Yara sucks. That's a very good name for her. Yara sucks. Hong Kong is Heil Hitler, and these Jews are all neo-Nazis. Were all the Lubavitch Jews that came to Pastor Hildebrand's multi-faith service on Sunday, were they all neo-Nazis as well? All those Hasidic Jews, those were neo-Nazis, along with all the Christians who were there who were praying for peace and love and whatever. They're all neo-Nazis. Really, Yara? Really? Really? Heil Hitler is Hong Kong is Heil Hitler. Really? That's what you're trying to say. So I'm a neo-Nazi. The Lubavitch rabbis are all neo-Nazis. All the Christians that were there preaching peace and love and respect for each other, they're all neo-Nazis. Really? Okay. Our politicians are the dumbest fucks in the world. Really. They really are. But, the thing is, what all these filters try to help is try to get us to see that life is not simple, right? That's why the 2 on the nose thing works, because that's a simplistic view of the world. Oh, there's truckers coming to Ottawa. Central Casting tries to label truckers as a certain type of rural person, whatever that is. And then there's a Confederate flag, a flag from a foreign country's civil war, with a truck on the Confederate flag, like a big truck in the center. 2 on the nose. Because reality of life is it's very complex. It's really messy. So I've tried to talk about, when I talk about politicians here and the lobby class, as much as they frustrate all of us, I also understand the restrictions and confines and the difficulty they have navigating a whole variety of special interests that are all in competition with each other. That's why everything is the Soros organization doesn't work, because there's so many other organizations that are equally competing for attention and for their narrative and their ideas to be victorious in the political square, right? Life is complicated. Life is difficult. But life is also amazing. Every day is a gift. I've posted a couple of times that Snoopy cartoon, that my favorite Snoopy cartoon, that it's with Snoopy and Charlie Brown on the dock. Some of you have seen it, where Charlie Brown says, "Snoopy, you only live once." And Snoopy responds with, "No, Charlie, we live every day. We only die once." And those are reasons to be positive. So all this noise that goes on, and this list of top 10 things we're going to learn the truth about everything that went on around Freedom Convoy in the next 5 years, that's entertainment. That's just fun on the side, right? Don't allow that to take over your life and allow politics to take over your life, especially party politics. That's why I'm so disappointed in some people that kind of went along with all of this stuff. We had this beautiful moment in Canadian history where we all unified, accepted each other, accepted our differences, hung out, loved each other, and then some people, some feds, some smear merchants got involved tried to hang on and smear us when we were just trying to get people together. And for what? For a political party. Really. It's really sad. It's really sad that that's how empty some people are. And you don't have to be that way. And I know all of you here are not that way. That's why we're here celebrating our freedom, working on expanding our freedoms in the future, focusing on the positive aspects, looking at these things with a tone of mockery and humor, and enjoying some of the stupidity that has gone on. That's what keeps us together. So I hope that gives you some perspective. Just shut down the audio. And I hope that gives some clarification. And we'll talk more about these things. I'm going to put on I have a list of reoccurring topics. We'll talk about this stuff in more detail, as well as in the Discord. So if you're not in the Discord and you want to be in the Discord, send me a DM over Twitter, and we're bringing people in. It's a positive space. It's not for people to smear and troll and yell at people. Some people have some differing opinions sometimes, but we're a small enough group that we all respect each other and understand each other's perspectives. And it's open for everybody. People on the left, people on the right, people in the middle. Doesn't matter. As long as you're respectful and you just kind of want to engage with people in a positive space, in a positive frame, it's there for you. Just let me know. Jesse says, amazing. Cheryl, we will stay united. We will. Cheryl, all we have to do... Yeah, Jesse says, I troll everyone in Discord. Yeah, Jesse, you don't exactly troll, but you're very sweet. Cheryl, yes, we will stay united, but we need to be able to have people who are suffering narrative poisoning right now. They need to learn and understand who are the people who have propagandized them, who have laundered political opinions through them and used them as a device to launder their narrative. And it's just going to take time for people to realize that. I'm very positive on people. I'm just patient, and I know over time people will understand it. And as long as we all stay in a positive frame, everything's going to work out. It's just going to take time, right? And that's notwithstanding certain potential economic difficulties that may go on in the next year or so. I'm going to talk about that more. I've been conversing with Lepard and Foss and some other people in the finance world with my limited understanding, but what I see on the ground, and we've had an inverted yield curve for 2-3 years now, and it's just crazy, some of the financial metrics that are going on right now. But we'll be able to go through it together. That's why I keep posting those. I posted a couple of videos of people helping each other, because if we get into that frame of helping one another, it's going to be a lot easier to weather the storm of economic uncertainty. And that's also why I keep talking about, on the other spaces and whatever, about the importance of Bitcoin and learning about this hedge and how to utilize it, and I will explain it. Avril says, the Discord is such a nice place. Well, thank you, Avril. I hope it is. I could have opened it up to everybody. I could have sent it out to the list on Substack that follow me and whatever, but I figured it's better if people are just, let's get the people who are proactive, that want a group of people to share ideas with, and not just make it absolutely open to everybody, because that's where you get the trolling and stuff like that. Like, I get it. It's funny for some people, but I want it to be a positive space for all of you. I want it to be a positive experience, just like the Freedom Convoy was. All right. I got to run. We're just over an hour, and I've got a hard stop right now. But I will talk to y'all soon. Have an amazing day. Be kind to each other. Go make the best of the beautiful weather, and reach out to your family and friends. And I'll talk to you all soon. And yes, and thank you, Tao, for all his work with the Discord and setting it up and trying to teach me and stuff like that. I really appreciate it, and we'll grow it over time.